Hello, everybody, and welcome to Pittsburgh Hockey Digest. We're on the road today. We're with Jeff Mauro. Jeff Mauro, of course, is a very important book coming up. He is the history of Pennsylvania State hockey. Go ahead and talk about that for a couple minutes, and then we'll go into what we're here for.
Well, Brian's got an opportunity none of you've had, when you're going to all be welcome here at some point to my home to see the archives. And we have the archives going back to 1971, Brian, and we're in the process of putting all that together in a book that's going to come out in September called Pennsylvania High School Hockey Championships. And it's going to celebrate the 50 years of high school hockey in Western Pennsylvania and Eastern Pennsylvania for all you folks out there in Flyers Cup land. And we're looking forward to it. We'll get a chance to talk about that later, but we have an agenda here today to talk about. It's an exciting Saturday coming up.
Exciting Saturday, of course. We didn't get this opportunity last year, and this is something that we wanted to do. So, we're moving along, and, things are starting to open up a little bit more, and we get our opportunity. We have our Penguins Cup champions and our Flyers Cup champions. Well, why don't we get them together and mix them up on Saturday? Let's talk about that opening game and how we got to there with the two teams, which are Indiana from the West and Westchester East from the Eastern side.
Well, Indiana's an interesting story, Mitch. They've had a great program for a long time. They lost their longtime mentor, Sam Kelly, who was a big part of starting hockey in Indiana, Pennsylvania. Good things have happened since Sam passed. So I think Sam's looking over the Indiana hockey community now. But Jordan Haynes, who's a protege of Sam's, has done a wonderful job with that program. He's built a development of young kids up there, and they're building a powerhouse. And they've won 27 games in a row. They finally won their first Penguin Cup, in fashion. They had to hang on to do it, and much like any other Indiana game, they were there 7 times, came home empty 6 of those 7, but the 7th time is the charm here, and they're going to face Westchester East. Westchester East is a terrific program led by Eric Wolf, Eric Wolf has a history. He won the 2005 state championship with Pencrest with Steve Miscani, and he's a wonderful coach. He's done a great job with Westchester East program, but they've lived in the shadows of Baird Rustin.
Oh, you can't talk about the East in single A without mentioning Baird Rustin as you go through. Of course, was it 6 consecutive state championships? It was just a powerhouse, and this year, of course, somebody else is getting a shot from the East to take on.
Yeah, Westchester East met heartbreak in 2 of those, one in double overtime in 2017, and Eric said that was their great chance. And as we know, Rustin went on to defeat Franklin Regional, which we show on the banners back here, and heartbreak to me, but also went on to win a national championship with USA Hockey. Nick Russo, the longtime coach, left the program. He may be coming back, so we're going to stay tuned for more of that. But Westchester East is a powerhouse. You look at the scores of the Flyers Cup: 6-0. They beat Pencrest 5-1. They beat Sun Valley 11-1, and then they stumbled a little bit. Westchester Henderson, longtime rival, same school district, has a terrific goalie, and they mucked it up with them a little bit on Tuesday night, and they almost knocked them off. And buyer beware. I'm looking for an interesting matchup here. Westchester East is going to skate 4 lines, but Indiana as well has depth. They have depth and speed. Jordan came out, and he had the cup in his hand on Tuesday night. That was Monday night. And he said, "This one's for Sam Kelly." And I said, "Well, now the homework begins." So he's looked at film of Westchester East, and he's going to make some adjustments. He learned his lesson in 2017 when they lost to Franklin. Jordan's a longtime student of the game, was a terrific player, played for me, Keystone Games, and had a couple all-star teams. Terrific student of the game, and he'll have Indiana ready for Eric Wolf at Westchester East.
And this is the thing about Indiana. Last season, of course, we had Berg Hockey Live, and I was able to cover their playoff game against Bishop McCourt. Indiana is a very physical, very, you said, deep team, and they're very skilled. The thing that people don't realize about Indiana is they've been together all 4 years, too. Their team has been varsity for so many years, and those players have gotten very together as we moved along.
Well, I think give a little bit of a tip to Jeff Williams, who coaches the Indiana U18 AA team. Had a lot of these boys together for many years, and that's what it takes when you have a small town like that. Everybody's invested in the program, and Jeff, did a great job developing some of those players. But Jordan's picked it up and he got it done, man. I was proud of him. We talked about this. He wanted to win that Penguin Cup, but he has one more notch in the belt here in the state championship. And as you know, Brian, you don't get many chances at this thing. And
no.
Indiana is going to be ready to go on Saturday.
I think they will too. I think they know what it's about. I think they all are ready for it, and it's going to be an interesting contest at 11:30 at the Lemieux Sports Complex up there in Granbury.
Well, interesting. I had a chance to look at some articles on Westchester East, and Eric Wolf, they're talking about statement games, and this being a statement game for Westchester East. And some of the pressure sometimes comes from within when you put pressure on yourself. And as we saw the last few nights with the Penguin Cup, Baldwin, who we're going to talk about here shortly, they defeated Thomas Jefferson. Well, you think they have the money in the bag, and they came out against Franklin Regional, and Franklin Regional give them all they can handle. But we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
But getting back to Indiana, I think Westchester East, the key to this game is going to be the goaltending of Indiana, Seamus O'Connor. I think he's going to be under a lot of pressure. He could face 30 to 40 shots. But I think the other thing is how each of these teams starts. And Jordan's talked to me intimately about getting a good start and skating throughout the game, and consistency in their shifts. And they showed that throughout the playoffs, except for the third period against Char Valley, where Char Valley made a comeback.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to avoid that, but I think it's really critical for Indiana to get a good start in this game and show that they can match up with Westchester East, because I think Westchester East is favored in this game.
I think at this point, I like that they're either one thing about Indiana is they have to stay out of their own heads whenever it comes to their grit. They like to play that physical, very punishing style, but they haven't had to play that style from behind this season. They haven't had that adversity, especially in a big game. So being able to do that, like they had to do that in the third period of the championship game, but they were up to it in the last couple minutes. Chartiers Valley had a very good swing of momentum late in the third, and you noticed towards the end they took a couple penalties in that game, and that was one thing that I noticed about Indiana and I was worried about, especially going into a big game like this, is if you do get down early, are you going to be able to hold it and hold your own momentum?
Yeah. And again, Westchester East has lived in the shadows. They're hungry to match what their brethren Baird Rustin did. Eric wasn't quoting, and he didn't quote to me that they were trying to do that, but it's in the back of their minds, And the one interesting thing is going to be the crowd. And as you saw, we only had 60 people per team at the games. But those crowds have been pretty vocal.
They're vocal crowds. These are people that wanted to get out to games, haven't had the opportunity to get out to a lot of games. Some, in some cases, not at all. So, and the crowd's getting into it. East and West. I don't know exactly how that's going to be set up at UPMC and what the rules are.
They'll have home and away. They do a really nice job. And my hat's off to John Muka and Jack Kukamp for the PIHL. They have a nice setup at Lemieux, where they funnel the crowds into the opposite set of stands. And it's, as you know, being in that arena, it's very close to the action. Those stands are right there. the atmosphere will be terrific for these games. There's no question about it.
And it's the first time in a long time it's moved away from the island, from the east. So
Yeah.
we're moving up to a big facility like the Lemieux Sports Complex, which is geared towards that type of a big game atmosphere. So that is a great situation to be in.
And the ice will be in terrific shape. Kara Radke, who's the general manager at UPMC Lemieux, when I spoke with her about hosting these games, absolutely thrilled, and they should be. That's what the Pittsburgh Penguins are for. They're to serve the community, and Kara's done a great job with that facility along with Rich Hicks and keeping that for the high school programs and the amateur programs. They've done a super job up there, so we're looking forward to being there Saturday.
That, of course, is Saturday at 11:20 at the Lemieux Sports Complex. If you want to watch it online, you can catch it on the Trib HSN network. Throw a little shout out to them.
Yeah,
great job, wonderful
great job. Bobby York was Kevin Zolmansky, Mike Azadi, and all those guys with Trib Sports Media do a wonderful job. They're fellow promoters of the sport, and we're thrilled that they're going to be doing the games on Saturday.
All right, we're back here with Jeff Mauro. We're talking the Pennsylvania Cup, the state championship for the Penguins Cup and the Flyers Cup champions are going to match up. The 2 o'clock start at the UPMC Lemieux Sports Complex is going to be between the Baldwin Fighting Highlanders and Haverford East Fords. Jeff, what can you say about this one?
Well, I tell you, I looked at what happened on this side of the state this year in AA, and one of the things that I've always talked about, and Steve Miscani and I talk about this a lot, who's one of the coach at Pencrest and one of the Flyers Cup committee members, and we talk about preparing yourselves for the state final. And the crucible that Baldwin's been under for the last 18 months or so, including going back into last season, and they've only lost a handful of games, did not have the opportunity to play Latrobe for the Penguin Cup last year, as none of the teams did. But they have been on a roll, and I read in the paper today that Keith Barnes eloquently wrote in the Post-Gazette that they were tired of hearing about 1988. It's almost like the Rangers in 1940. Baldwin's a proud program. Keith Reed, who's one of their leaders, the captain, number 8. His brother was on, not his brother, but his father was on that 88 team. And, in sitting with those folks last night, and I was on an adversary of theirs, it was interesting to get their perspective on what's going on with that program. Hey, let's face it, the crowd of 1,100 people in Harmerville for the TJ Baldwin game, that was the game of the year. And everybody thought TJ would come out of that, but Eddie Nowicki had other ideas in that game.
That was a fun game to follow.
It was a fun game
to watch.
Yes. So the one thing that you can't, if you're guiding the ship, and Justin Glock, who played for Bethel Park from 2000 to 2002 and won 3 state championships, you see a lot of handprints of Jim McVeigh on this team. How they pack in the defense, how they rely on their goaltending and the timely scoring. He's done it his own way, though, Justin, in a quiet way. Wonderful young man and a wonderful coach. He's really the kind of coach that should be coaching in this game. A former player that played at a high level. I can't say enough of the job he's done for Baldwin. And, the TJ, my good friend Bill Krause, I really feel bad for him. This was their last go around. They had a loaded team, but somebody had to win and somebody had to lose. And that brought us to the Penguin Cup and the upstart Franklin Regional team that. And have you ever seen, and Jared Todd Hunter and I, your cohort, have been talking about this for months, the finish in that division with Franklin Regional, Hempfield, Latrobe, and Penn Trafford, all separated by 2 points. Just what a race that was. And I think what I just said about preparing yourself for the playoffs, that prepared one of those teams, and it happened to be Franklin Regional, to go on a run. And they did. And they just fell short. They fell short. They'll be back next year. That's going to be a good team. They only lose 3 kids.
Oh my,
And
they were a young squad.
Young
We
squad,
talked about
yeah.
this. You guys a couple seasons of Danny, and 4-year starter in goal. Then you bring in Gunner, and he had a great season this year. And but that is a young team. You talk about. I always talk about it. It's cyclical. You get 4 years. Every once in a while you have a couple down years, but it's some reason you always come back. Armstrong was another team that did that this year and surprised a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, down for a couple years after a Penguins Cup, and they made their run in 18. So you're back and you're running. Franklin Regional, right back at it. They,
Right.
The elevation and everything. So that's
and the ball, getting back to the Baldwin program, this has been a program that's been long time program, built and started in the 70s with our first state champion in 75. A lot of proud people in that community, and one including Jack Kukan, who is our PIHL president. Jack and his wife Debbie have done a lot of work to get that Baldwin program back in order in the 90s and 2000s. So, you look at programs in history, and I was so happy for Baldwin the other night. I was sad for Franklin Regional, but happy for the Baldwin people that they were able to cut it over the top. And they now are 1 win away from winning their third state championship. That was their 4th Penguin Cup this year, and just a great story and a great finish, and a great finish in a way. I talked to Bernie D'Antonio, who was a longtime president of Baldwin. And I said, it was great because you guys made it here last year and you didn't get a chance to finish it. And you got the chance to finish it this year. So hats off to the Highlanders. That's great.
And I just want to note, you look at how they realign the league and everything every year. Note 3 of the 4 semifinalists in the Penguins Cup were single A competitors 2 or 3 years ago. Franklin Regional was the first one to come up. Montour came up 2 years ago, and
TJ
then
Baldwin
TJ just came up this year. Well, Baldwin also.
Baldwin also was in single A's. Yes, they were.
As of a little bit ago, so you talk about how they, everybody wants to ask how they realign. It's based off of the regular season standings. It's a whole system. We'll talk about that again, hopefully in the future.
Oh, I'd love to be a part of that conversation.
We'll have that one in the future, but I just want to give hats off to the programs that are building and wanting to learn how to be competitive, and that's how you get up to there. A lot of teams say, well, it's all about getting up to AAA. And, well, you got to get there. You got to go through what you have. And a lot of these teams
are a big process. And had the chance to talk with Clay Shell from Montour last night. And, he said we were 1 goal away. And one, Felsing goal away because Felsing did whatever he wanted to do.
Yep.
Tremendous player. But, Montour, hats off to him and what he's done with that program.
Oh, man.
They won their first Penguin Cup. They were back knocking on the door again. It's wonderful to see how these programs develop. And year in, year out, they're trying to be competitive for this Penguin Cup.
Yep.
It's terrific. So now we go over to the flip side. And let's talk about the Haverford Fords. And my good friend John Povey, who has been coaching Haverford for a couple of years here now. He was a player in the finals in 2005 when they lost to Peters Township, and he was reminiscing with me today that Haverford, Malvern both made it to the state finals this year, and the Pencrest protege Eric Wolf, who in 2005 coached with Steve Muscani at Pencrest. So there's kind of a reunion going on here with these Philadelphia teams. But Haverford has been a great story. They've been up and down. They won the title in '92 at Single A and had a couple nice runs in 2005 and 2006, I believe, under Brian Cleary. Long storied program in Philadelphia. They play out of the Central Division of the Intercounty Scholastic Hockey League. They swept through that division pretty well. So this is a high-powered team. It's a good team. And he has depth. There's 3 lines on that team. Goaltending is very good. And, the one interesting matchup that I'm seeing here, Brian, is Haverford loaded up the shots against Downingtown. They had over 50 shots. So We have the immovable object. You got
There's a
Eddie
of
DeWicki
course.
down to the other end of the ice,
Mhm.
and it may come down to the goaltending of Haverford
Mhm.
against the goaltending of Baldwin.
Mhm.
And can Haverford break Eddie DeWicki? I mean, the kid's only given up under 20 goals in 20 games.
And you mentioned, the other half of it's Nowicki's a wonderful, wonderful goal. Does a great job. But you talk about guys like Keith Reed on the back end, Aranos is on the back end with them, and it's just that defense is solid for Baldwin this year. And they've been there a couple years in a row, so it's one of those things that you got to pay attention to.
A lot of no names, a lot of kids blocking shots in there
Mhm.
against Franklin, and somehow turned the tide in that game yesterday. They got the first goal, which was really important, but the workmanlike effort of Baldwin, I really like. I like it. Dom Trimber, number 25, very, very strong player. Reed, as you mentioned before, Kress, who scored the second goal. A lot of firepower on that team. And so, Haverford's, while you could get mesmerized and worry about the goaltending of Baldwin, you better worry about the rest of the team. And much could be said for Haverford too. Haverford has some real nice looking players. The one thing that I'm going to be interested to see is how their defensemen handle things at the point. I thought Franklin had a rough time getting pucks through. They blocked a lot of shots, and I'm interested to see if Haverford's able to have patience and be able to get the pucks to the net. And if they are, they may have a chance. They have some nice finishers on this team, and spoke with John Povey today, and he's looking forward to this opportunity. And again, it only comes around once in a while. You get a chance at a state championship. I think this is going to be our best game of the day.
You think this
Yeah,
double A is going to
absolutely.
be the one to
This is
watch?
going to be the best game of the day.
Well, of course, Baldwin and Haverford East Fords. That's at 2 p.m. at the Lemieux Sports Complex. You can catch that one once again on the Trib HSSN site, and they will have that game in whole for you. Their pregame starts at 1:50. I'll be there with Jared Todhunter and Ed Major, of course, for that game. So we'll see you there. We'll be right back to talk about the AAA game. All right, we're back here. Of course, my name is Brian Mitchell. You find me on Twitter at PhDMitch. This is Jeff Mauro. He is, of course, we refer to him as the hockey historian for Western Pennsylvania and all of the state of Pennsylvania when it comes to high school hockey. Jeff, it's AAA matchup, North Allegheny and Malvern East. What are you thinking?
Well, a lot of people don't. Malvern's been kind of left at the side of the road for a few years here because of LaSalle. Wally Bruner's done a terrific job, and we've seen St. Joe's Prep and Holy Ghost intermittently come out of the Flyers Cup. But Malvern hasn't been here since 2005. Once coached by Coach John Graves. They won 8 Flyers Cups, and they won a period of 6 in a row, which was a record unmatched in Pennsylvania. Malvern's a really proud program, won a couple state championships here, and they're coached by Bill Keenan and also Bill Hammond. And Bill Hammond has an interesting history. He was the coach of Unionville in 1998, and then led the Archbishop Carroll teams through 2002 to 2004 that won the state championship and upset Peters Township. Bill Hammonds is a good hockey mind, and I wouldn't mind having him on my bench if I was Mr. Keenan. And I think Malvern's coming in here with a whole lot of confidence. They're not really deep as we've seen the AAA teams coming out of Eastern Pennsylvania, but their goaltender's terrific. He's all that, and that's going to be a big important key to this game and going against North Allegheny and Mike Bagnato. So Malvern Prep got here. They defeated St. Joseph's Prep and my good friend Dave Jockman, and then beat Wally Muhlenbrunner in overtime in LaSalle 4-3. And I was reading some of the quotes from the players. They're just absolutely. They said coming into this program 4 years ago, they never dreamed that they would win a Flyers Cup. And so they've done a turnaround with Malvern Prep, and I think they're a slight favorite in this game. I don't discount Mike Bagnato at all, but I think a number 1 seed versus a number 4 seed has a little bit of validity to it. When you have strong goaltending, I think that's another part of it. And they seem to be on a roll, and you know, don't mess with momentum.
Oh no.
When you're talking about state championships, but I think there's a couple of guys in black and gold with an NA on the front of their chest that were here 2 years ago that would like to atone for that.
There aren't many, but there are some that are on there. Of course, we'll start with the goaltender. I mean, Bailey was the backup that year. Richie Carpandi.
Yeah, waiting in the wings for Rich Carapandi, and Bailey's been terrific in these playoffs. I thought he was the difference against Peters Township, and then against Mount Lebanon in that second period when the Blue Devils came with everything in his kitchen sink. He stopped everything. So Bailey's been a real nice surprise for North Allegheny, but the play of their defensive unit, led by Trey Gallo, I think Mike's instilled a defense-first system with that program. They don't have the depth of the other North Allegheny teams we've seen in the past.
Well, that was the big thing about North Allegheny this year. I believe, only 3 or 4 seniors.
Yeah.
They were a very young squad this year, and they're going to be back again next year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is a team that's going to learn from this regardless. I mean, 2 years ago, you saw what happened against LaSalle.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. They had the game on their plate and had the power play, and
it just all went downhill.
And it fell apart.
Yeah.
But
you get these opportunities to do it again, and you don't have as much of that sitting on there. And I think I asked Mike Bagnato last season, not this season, and he said this was all in the past. Like, all that was in the past. It's time to move on. And you got this young squad that's going to learn from it, and
they're here.
They're here. They made it.
And I'll tell you what. I had a chance to sit with Keith Barnes, and we talked about this. Everybody picked Seneca Valley to beat them in that opening game. North Allegheny beat them 5-0. Then they go on to play the number 1 seed Peters Township. Everybody was putting their marbles in the Peters basket. North Allegheny beat them, and they were outshot in that game quite a bit. And then you had the Mount Lebanon game with a team that was red hot.
Lebanon had them for
had them
well
on the
over half of
ropes,
that game. Yeah.
And North Allegheny beat them. So, whenever you're counting North Allegheny out, don't count them out. Yeah, because they have a veteran coaching staff. Mike has done a wonderful job, and he's done a wonderful job over the years with that program. Andrew Cease and Derek Bob are his assistants, and they do a nice job with keeping that bench call over there. But this is a really intriguing matchup in my mind. Malvern, having the goaltending they have, and the timely scoring they've had throughout this year, and they've won a couple of overtime games against Holy Ghost Prep in the regular season. Holy Ghost Prep, coached by Whiteside, a terrific program, and been to the Pennsylvania finals a few times. When you're matching up with Holy Ghost and LaSalle, and you're beating them, and they went 8-1-1 in the regular season. That's pretty strong season. And then on the flip side, you look at North Allegheny, that's been nothing but more than opportunistic in this whole playoffs. It makes for a great matchup.
Oh man, I am excited about this one.
But here's my one caveat with this game. If it's tied, is Chi going to come through again? Okay, and we're talking about Connor Chi. What a playoffs this kid's had. I mean, he scores the overtime game winner on the first shift against Peters. Then he comes back and scores the game winner against Mount Lebanon, and he's been their leading scorer all year. And Keith and I were talking about, candidates for something we're putting together. And I said, you may want to look at this kid after he scored the game winner in both those games.
Mm-hmm.
So, North Allegheny may have the last word at all this. And for Mike Bagnato, it's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
He is a player, and a lot of people don't know this, lost in the state finals in 1979 against South Hills Catholic. And he's carried that with him a long time. And I think in the briefcase, he's going to bring out that picture and he's going to say, I found the picture of the 79 team, by the way.
Okay.
The 79 North Catholic team. And Jim Rannekamp, who was Mike's assistant and also Jimmy Black's assistant, he was the goaltender on that team. And we were talking about it the other day, and I think Mike's been holding it in his briefcase, that picture. And I think if he's able to get it over the top here, we're going to see another excitement for North Allegheny. And what a wonderful hockey program they run there. A lot of nice people that I've met over the years. They spend a lot of time with me over the winter with a lot of events that we run. And I'm looking forward to seeing Malvern Prep with NA. That's going to be a great game.
Yeah, Mike actually mentioned that in his post-game media scrum on Monday night about that 79 team and losing the state final. So he did talk a little bit, and he's like, I'm excited to get there. I got to get this off my back.
Well, I'm going to tell
Paraphrasing Mike, I don't want to hear about it.
You'll see my helmet up there, and we were rivals in high school. Mike played for North Catholic, I played for Churchill. But I'll never forget the sportsmanship aspect of this guy. To this day, and he was an 18-year-old kid, and I was this 18-year-old kid. We stood at center ice and talked, and I remember the conversation a little bit. I don't know what we were even talking about, but I know that the sportsmanship aspect of that gentleman, and he comes to play every night. If he wins, he wins. He loses, but he'll come and shake your hand, and that's what we need in this sport, guys like him. He's a terrific ambassador for this game, and I'm wishing him the best of luck. I'm pulling for you, Mike. I'm sorry, Bill Hammond and Bill Keenan. I'm pulling for Mike Bagnato to get over the top here.
Well, we have our first siding of the day.
Right.
But no, I understand. And
Yeah.
everybody has, who they want to see here, and it's going to be great to see it play out on the ice. And that's what I always say. We can sit here and talk all day about how these games are going to go and how I'm not out there, you're not out there, neither of us are out there. We're going to watch and see how these kids who are getting this possibly once in a lifetime opportunity, some of them a couple times if they get lucky. But this is really one of those once in a lifetime opportunities to play for a state championship for your school.
And you talk about history and you go and you think 20 years ago, John Povey was playing for Haverford. Eric Wolf was coaching with Steve Biscani at Pencrest, the coach at Westchester East. Bill Hammonds was coaching Archbishop Carroll through some great runs. I had, at that time, in the early 2000s, North Allegheny was a terrific program that never got it over the top. And fortunately, Jimmy Black landed on their doorstep, and they were able to get over the top. There was a gentleman named Tom Pandolfo that did a wonderful job of developing North Allegheny's program into a high-powered Penguin Cup contender. And then Jimmy was able to finish it off. And now you have Mike Bagnato that's followed in Jimmy's footstep. Baldwin, Justin Glock 20 years ago was playing for Bethel Park, and now he's leading Baldwin to the state finals. And Jordan Haynes, last but not least, played for Indiana High School, and this is a heartbreaker, Jordan. I'm going to talk about it because Joey Lenz made sure I talked about it. Jordan's assistant.
Yeah.
You know Joey, a very colorful guy, and he said we lost to that damn Peters Township in 2005. They lost to Peters Township, and they were winning the game. Peters scored with 6 seconds left, and then Christian Manella won it in overtime. Or no, it was not. No, it was Cy Bishop. Cy Bishop won the game in overtime at the old Civic Arena, and they did a commemoration article about this game and about Mark Cooper's locker room speech in the second period, which was always colorful when you had Mark Cooper in the room. But Cy was remembering that win and they went on, of course, to win the state championship that year, Peters Township.
And of course, that will be we'll talk about the Triple A state championship. That is at 4:30 p.m. at the Lemieux Sports Complex. Once again, you can follow that and watch along on HSS, Trib Live, HSSN. They're going to take care of it from 4:20 and start. I'll be there with Jared Tonhunter and Ed Major. And we'll get there. We'll be right back to talk a little bit more. We're going to talk maybe a little bit of the Class B championship, Penguin Cup
Okay,
championship.
yeah, let's talk about that.
Didn't get a chance to talk about that because, by what I hear, that was a very good contest. Didn't get a chance to rewatch that. I'll explain that in a little bit. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. We're going to be talking the Class B championship here. Pittsburgh Hockey Digest, of course, live right now. We're with Jeff Mauro. We're talking Penguins Cup, Flyers Cup, state championship, and now we're going to talk about the Class B postseason, and it wound up in what I thought was a surprising way
absolutely.
On Tuesday night. Neshannock defeating Ringgold 5-1, and Riley Mastowski had 53 saves, 54 shots on a very, very, very talented Ringgold team. I don't think anybody realizes how talented this Ringgold team actually is.
Ringgold is run by Rick Kalinowski, a good friend of mine, and Rick's done a wonderful job with that program. And the beautiful thing about the Class B organizations is it gives kids an opportunity to play hockey that normally wouldn't play. And I think the other thing that's starting to develop out of it, you're going to see a couple of varsity programs going to come back, one of them being Canevin, over the next few years. Mm-hmm. And hats off to the PIHL for keeping that rolling. It's a good thing. You get kids. But there's another development that's going on, and it's up in the Lawrence County area. And it started with Kennedy Christian, and then it's grown into Neshannock and Wilmington. And those two teams met for the semifinals out of the Hess Arena. The Pittsburgh Penguins donated, they were winners of the Pittsburgh Penguins rink.
The donation,
donation, and they renovated the Hess Arena up there. My son had an opportunity to do some learn to skate when he was over at Slippery Rock with the Lawrence County Lightning, and we're starting to see some high school hockey to evolve, and with the Neshannock winning this, we may see more of it. May be some more excitement.
Those are some good teams up there.
Yeah,
there's some really good teams coming out of the Lawrence County right now.
Yeah.
People don't think to look up. You go up 79, and they're for real. I actually feel bad for myself for not going up there more at all in the last couple of years. Alan Saunders covered a playoff game up there for us one year, and that was about it. And I think this is the time where I'm going to have to pull the plug and go up 79 and catch a couple of home games for these two teams.
Yeah.
Just because it's really starting to show. It's nothing against them. It's the time starts and the time drive for me into work in the morning. No. That's tough, but I mean, these programs are finally there. You mentioned Kennedy Catholic a couple years ago. Players like Carson Burkhardt, who the goaltender that played for them, that moved on, and they became Neshannock, and then I guess they changed associations over to Neshannock and created this new legacy and moved along with it. And
it's wonderful. It gives it an opportunity, and Rick Kalinowski, the coach of Ringgold, and I had an opportunity, 2 years ago when they played Burrell. Everybody thought Burrell was going to blow their doors off, and he was able to come up with a plan, and they defeated Burrell. And so Ringgold's been kind of the top dog in that Class B for a while, and now Neshannock comes in and knocks them off. It's pretty neat. It's revived some programs that were really struggling, Brian. I think you look at Connellsville, Trinity, some of these programs that have really struggled for numbers. And it's given them an opportunity to play hockey, but their long-term survival is what's at stake here. Mm-hmm. And I think if they could somehow grow that into middle school and junior varsity programs, that I think the Class B can serve what it's supposed to do, which is to build new programs for the PIHL.
And you get that opportunity, like you said, there's these smaller schools don't have the ability to play. A lot of the city schools play with Carrick.
Yeah.
You get the opportunity for, you might not have a full roster of hockey players running around at the school. Yeah. You don't have a full thing. But these kids have the opportunity to play. And they're putting out phenomenal players. I was actually noting Carrick. They had 2 players. Well, I don't know if she played for Carrick, but I believe her name was Heidelkamp and Olivia Sindred.
Yeah.
Where they had played at Carrick. I believe they both went to Carleton.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the ability to play high school hockey. Or
That's
if they
right.
didn't, I don't know if she did. She was it was the Steel City Select girls. They were
Yeah.
both Steel City Selects girls. But I did notice while I was covering Chatham, they each had those players playing in this postseason.
Oh, that's
the previous postseason. They came to PIA to be able to play. And,
That's fantastic.
but you're putting out that opportunity, players that maybe schools that don't have large numbers of athletes to put out to play a hockey team are having the ability to play high school hockey or
Well,
the equivalent.
you hit the nail on the head. It all starts with development. I mean, when you get the amateur organizations to start developing kids, and you can grow into a middle school program and a junior varsity program, some organizations just have a wealth of players. Some of them are still struggling to you look down in Beaver County and Blackhawk and Beaver. Those were once proud programs, but they've struggled with numbers, and mainly because their amateur organizations are not producing as many players as they used to. And it all starts with development. And I'll give you this. Eric Wolf, the coach of Westchester East, eloquently in the paper, he said, we have these young kids that are in 3rd and 4th grade that are they want to wear the red helmets for Westchester East, or the red helmets and the jerseys for the games. That's what it's about, introducing the game to those kids at a grade school level so they want to play for the high school team. And boy, wouldn't you know it, and hats off to Rick Kalinowski and the folks up at Hess Arena, and all these teams that are putting players on the ice for the hope of one day being in the PIHL and playing for a Penguin Cup.
Absolutely. And, to your point earlier, creating new teams for the PIHL, you have a team that won the Penguin Cup in Bishop Canavan a couple seasons ago. Had to take
9 Penguin Cups.
Had to take a full season off.
Yeah.
Had to take a full season off before they could come back. Team played with Carrick, co-op with Carrick for that year, and then were able to put a co-op together. And I believe they wanted to try to go with all the Catholic schools. Having a hard time with some of that, but they wanted to be able to try to make that happen. But in the future, there's a future now, because you're seeing that team. That team this year went to the semifinals.
Yeah,
they lost to Ringgold 4-3, so that wasn't even a tough game.
I think we're going to see a growth, not only with that, Brian, but I think you're going to see the Johnstown community come back into the PIHL. I think, from what I understand, Bishop McCourt's going to they're going to make a comeback here.
Big shock of my off season was realizing the day it moved out to the Laurel Highlands.
My good friend JJ Vasilka tells me from Richmond, Cambria, that they're almost ready to come back to the PIHL.
So that's a big jump.
Yeah, it's hey, but you look at what happened in single A this year, and just great to see Freeport back in the mix. Great to see Kiski, a long-time program that really never played for much of anything. They made the Penguin Cup semifinals 2 years in a row. You see Char Valley, that hadn't been to the Penguin Cup since 1990. They were able to get in. So you're seeing a lot of programs that are starting to build, and they're building with the goal of getting there. And, my friend Paul Benetti from Char Valley was very disappointed the other night. Long-time coach, and coached at Moon for many years, and very disappointed after that game. But he did a terrific job with that program to get them into the Penguin Cup.
And I don't think anybody saw Char Valley in the finals. If you told me at the beginning of the season it would be Char Valley, and
Well, it's Indiana.
I had Indiana.
Yeah,
Indiana was like, you write that. No offense to anybody out there. But I had Indiana on my preseason display, basically. Yep.
Yeah.
And they did exactly what I expected them to do, because those are teams that I see more often being in the East. No offense to the South or the West. I see them a lot more often. Especially Indiana, who is a 35-minute drive for me to go up to their single rink. I played on their rink before, an amateur, so I'm a big fan. You know, I get to see them because they're the only ones that play up there.
Yeah.
So it's a hard trip to make, but at the same time, it's nice to be able to go and see things like that because you get to see different situations.
Again, you know, you go to Armstrong to the Belmont and these little towns and the community support is absolutely tremendous for these programs.
Oh, it's huge.
It's great. Great to see. They had a chartered bus with the fire engines out in Indiana the other day. I saw Jordan posted on Facebook.
And they're doing it again.
Yeah.
They're doing it again, and that's exactly what you like to see. You say with the arms, with the arrows. You know,
Yeah,
up
the
there,
Arrows did
and
that.
all them growing up. You know, Indiana with their program up there. It's just nice to see that progression, and you can see that. And that's the other thing that's nice about seeing it. You can play on two different teams.
Mhm.
You can play as your midget majors, and then you can play at high school level at the same time. Nobody's saying anything otherwise.
Well,
That's
the,
nice.
the neat thing is, and we're a stone's throw from Belmont here, but good friend of mine is working on rebuilding the Gateway program, and Dennis Shannon was a longtime coach there, but Steve Biancanello runs a benefit event every year for the Gateway program, so that kids could afford to play hockey. Normally couldn't afford to do it. And they've put together now a middle school team and a grade school team. So we're going to see the Gateway Gators here in the very near future. They're going to be back on the ice. And we were talking about it. You talked about 20 years ago. And I was talking to Justin Clark, and he said our toughest games back in those days were the Gateway. We had the Gold Bomb. It was terrific.
First game I ever covered for before we were Pittsburgh Hockey Digest and the Dallin Saunders. Gateway Gators and the Sarah Catholic Eagles.
Wow.
And that was Roman Kramer was playing for the Eagles at that time. Now, of
that
course,
was
Roman Kramer will
right.
be a junior at Robert Morris
Yeah.
next year, and you're going to start to age me at this point.
Yeah.
But you know, you look at those squads, and those teams. You were hoping that they come back. Like I see a lot of these JV only teams. Knock tried it for a year.
Yeah.
Went back down to JV. You see teams attempt to do it. They want to get there. McDowell.
Yeah.
They went Class B.
Yeah.
And then they
Dallas
went
back in Single A.
They went pure this year. They became a pure team and were able to play in Single A this year.
Well, the other thing, it all starts again back with the development piece. I got a keen eye on one program in particular. It's Avonworth.
That is.
Avonworth is built a JV and a middle school team, and they're ready to burst onto that varsity scene pretty soon. And pretty economically affluent area, decent area. It won't be long.
No.
We might be talking about Avonworth in the Single A and something.
The Antelope really surprised me the last couple of years, and I think that they're definitely a team to watch. And where are we going to put all these teams? Who knows? Who knows where the PIHL's going to decide? Whenever they come, they're all going to go into Single A.
Well, the recipe right now, in my opinion, and I'm not, is to have probably a dozen AAA teams, 16 each in Single A and Double A. And,
We're already at.
And where we're at, and then have a building model to keep making those programs better. You have some teams that are not in the PIHL right now that could be coming back, with Michigan Forts and the Richland Cambrians, and of course Westmont is in there. But you always want to have good competition to be able to the crucible for what we're going to watch Saturday.
Absolutely.
And I want to. We've now been the PIHL has now been in business for 20 years. I was there in the beginning. Was it what we envisioned, Brian? Yeah, it was. It was. And I can remember saying at the time, Mike White interviewed me with the Post-Gazette, and I said the goal is to have a uniform of competition that you earn your way into the Penguin Cup. Isn't that what we've been talking about?
Oh yeah.
These 7 seeds, like Mount Lebanon and Franklin Regional, rising to the occasion and playing for the Penguin Cup.
And while we're talking about that, going on tonight at, I believe, Ice Castle, we have the PIHL JV Championship this evening. I want to congratulate Pine Richland, Peters Township, Penn Trafford and Baldwin, North Hills and Butler, Armstrong and Thomas Jefferson, and Montour and Avonworth for all making it to their finals.
And Thomas Jefferson did not have a JV team, and co-op with South Park a couple of years ago, and now has a full-fledged JV team.
The schedule looks like this. Tonight, Montour and Avonworth will face off at 7:20. 8:40, you'll see Peters Township and Pine Richland play. Tomorrow, it'll be Baldwin and Penn Trafford, Thomas Jefferson and Armstrong, and then on Friday will be Butler and North Hills.
So go over and see my good friend Ralph Mirovich over at the Ice Castle, King Ralph, and you could have a couple of cold ones there while you're waiting. And always a wonderful trip to the South Hills over there in Cassius Shannon.
And it makes me question that too, because I wanted to do both this year, but I didn't get a chance to. I guess they rolled everybody together with the scheduling of being the way it is and everything. I wasn't able to make it down this year. I did JV last year. I wanted to roll middle school in this year. Maybe next year I'll do it. But just a shout out to the middle school teams that made it to the finals. Ironically, Pine Richland, Peters Township, the first game tonight. Wheeling Catholic and Mount Lebanon
that's
are
an
playing.
interesting matchup.
Elizabeth Forward and Avonworth are playing tomorrow at 6.
Okay.
Fox Chapel and Franklin Regional.
Oh boy, my middle school team.
And on Friday, it's Upper St. Clair and North Catholic. And you look at those teams and realize which ones you talk about are building their teams,
Yeah, they're building from the bottom up.
And that's a team like North Catholic who wanted to continue to build after a couple of seasons off, after those seasons off, and put a varsity team back in. And they succeeded right through. Teams that continue to grow. Peters Township, Pine Richland, just still building that pipeline.
Oh, yeah.
Avonworth was one that you noticed. Elizabeth Forward, a team who had that same situation a couple years ago. Fell out, went into a co-op with Sarah Catholic, and we're still back. They took a season off one year, and now they're back in Class B, and they had another good season this year. So these teams that you're building. Now, just congratulations to all those teams. Good luck in your games. If you're watching this before your games, if you have won, by the time you're watching this, congratulations. If you lost, you have another opportunity for the next couple of years.
I'm glad you touched upon the junior varsity and the middle school programs, because the history behind that is that until around 1980, nobody delved into junior varsity or middle school, and it was the South Hills League that was the proponent of that. The South Hills Interscholastic Hockey League, which was played out of Mount Lebanon, at that point in time, started to have overload on their varsity programs of freshmen and junior varsity kids. So what they did was they would build teams around 9th and 10th graders, which were JV teams. And they had a structured environment where those next few players were always being trained to come up and play for their varsity teams. Most notably the programs Baldwin, Mount Lebanon, Upper St. Clair, and Bethel Park were the big proponents of that. But you had Canavan and Chartiers Valley that were big proponents of that as well. And that's what kept those programs alive all those years, because they built from the bottom up, and they were able to get kids into the program at the middle school level in the 7th and 8th grade, and then they were able to carry them through to the varsity. And it's a wonderful history of long time programs. And I talked to my good friend Ron Steedle, who coached Shaler for many years, and we talk about it all the time. That's how you build a hockey program. You have to have involvement. When you're the varsity coach, you have to go down and look at what you have coming through the pipeline. That's all there is to it.
Yep. All right. So we'll talk a little bit about Class B and the PIHL. We'll be right back. We're going to talk about the book that Jeff has coming out. It'd be interesting to see. Be right back. Welcome back. We're talking with Jeff Mauro about a little bit of everything amateur hockey in Western Pennsylvania today. We've had a good little conversation about the state titles, the Penguins Cups, the Flyers Cups, the PIHL. Some little information I didn't even know he decided to bring up. So Now we're going to talk about his little brainchild, and that is the history of Pennsylvania high school hockey. Jeff, what is the history of Pennsylvania high school hockey?
It's a little more than 4 years of work there, Brian. But as you can see, the archives here, we were able to, I have scrapbooks going back from 1970 all the way up to today. And I was approached by Steve Biscani from Pencrest and a few years ago, and John Povey and a few other folks from Eastern Pennsylvania, and they said, what do you think about writing a book about the history of the state finals? Because I had all these scrapbooks and all these pictures, and you know, and that's a whole story in itself, the pictures, which we're going to touch upon before we get off here. Okay. But Steve said to me, he goes, "You're one of the few people that could pull this off." And it motivated me. We were in Iceland when we were talking about this. And it may have been, I think, around 2018 when it first evolved. And so I started writing, you know, captions and collected pictures, and then I collected more pictures, and then I started keeping track of collected pictures, and there were 117 champions through 2019. The goal was to get every picture. Every picture of every state championship team. Just imagine that. Going back to 1975. I had a few of them to start, but not what I have now. But personally, and a lot of you are out there and a lot of you will watch this, I want to thank each and every person that gave me a picture, because it warms my heart that you're a part of this book, that you're a part of the history of hockey in Pennsylvania. I had I'm going to share a couple interesting stories with you about pictures. I was looking for a picture of the 1982 Westchester Henderson team. My wife in her infinite wisdom said, call the Historical Society and call the library, call the school library, you know. So I hooked up with this librarian from Westchester Henderson. She went in the library, found the picture, scanned it, and sent it to me. When I got it that day, it was really cool. I mean, it's a neat little story amongst stories. A fellow by the name of Tom McGinley from Father Judge, 1993. He sent me the film of the Father Judge Johnstown game, which was one of the games mentioned as well. Was it one of the top 10 games of all time? Well, you got to buy the book to find that out. So I'm not going to tell you that. But Tom was kind enough to send me the Father Judge pictures. He hooked up with the Council Rock people. They sent me pictures. Who hooked up with the Conwell Egan people, and my good friend Elvina Tetley, Brian Tetley, who scored the game winner in the 1999 Class 3 overtime classic against Meadville. And I'm breaking the Meadville people's heart, by the way, when I tell you that. And if you want to know if that's one of the top 10 games of all time, well, you got to buy the book. So, just wonderful stories about getting pictures. The other neat one was the 89 Canavan picture. Now let me tell you about that one. Mike Daly, who's from Upper St. Clair and played for 1989 Canavan, he didn't have the picture. Greg Timmons, who was the coach of that team, he didn't have the picture. Justin Brzezinski's brother played on the team, he didn't have the picture. I got a hold of the principal and the librarian, they went to work, and I had the picture within 24 hours.
Wow. It
was tremendous. So, all sorts of pictures and stories about finding these things. And the last person I want to mention, and a very long time Western Pennsylvania personality in high school hockey, was Lenny Semplis, who coached the Shadyside Academy. He coached the 1980 Upper St. Clair team to the state championship. He sent me some wonderful photographs of 1980s Upper St. Clair, 1979 South Hills Catholic, who beat Mike Bagnato in the state championship.
Sorry, Mike.
Sorry, Mike. But wonderful stories about obtaining these pictures. And there's going to be over 180 photographs in the book. We have the story of all the championships from 1975 up to today.
And you do a lot of that on, I've seen that on Facebook. You're updating them all the time, like all these championships. And I see names like I didn't even realize.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned one earlier, Christian Manella.
Yeah.
I had known him as a wheeling nailer for so long. And Peters Township.
So if you follow us on Facebook, what I do is the captions that were over 200 words that the publisher, Arcadia Media, and by the way, I want to throw a hat out to them. I mean, they have trained me how to write a book, taught me a lifelong skill. Just wonderful. Angel and her staff have been wonderful to me, and I can't wait. I hope we sell 1,000 of these books. I really do. But anyway, you know, the story of just capturing this information, if you follow us on Facebook, has brought more people back to the game. That's what it's about. A kid like Matt Schwartz, who played for Peters Township in the 2000s, and Christian Hansen, who played the National Hockey League for the Toronto Maple Leafs at Notre Dame. They're coaching now. We're putting the game in the hands of those people. And Justin Glock, who we talk about a lot here today. But the first part of the book, folks, is a acknowledgement section. And if I could name every person that helped me along the way with this, including yourself, Brian, and I want to throw hats out to Pittsburgh Hockey Digest, and my buddy Ed Major, I hope you talk to me again. I don't know what
I don't know why you want that.
He's mad. He's mad at me.
He's mad at everybody.
Yeah. So Jared Todd Hunter and Alan Saunders. I mean, what you guys are doing for high school hockey is unheard of. It really is. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's something that I did for many years, ran around in the rinks, and I give you guys a lot of credit. I think it's wonderful. But getting back to the book, the acknowledgement section will be heartwarming for some people that deserve some recognition for over the years. Mainly my mother, who started me in all this, and she's the first person mentioned in this, who took me to a rink when I was an 8-year-old kid to see my brothers play. And all the way back to my son, who, you know, warmed my heart by winning a couple Penguin Cups and being a great young man. That's more foremost. I couldn't be more proud as a father to have a kid like him. He's just done a wonderful job, and he's got one more year left in him in IUP, baby. And we're coming after you, Pitt. So Jerry and Stu, you better be ready. But anyway, we won't get into that. I think that's why Ed's mad. But anyway, okay. couple points in the book. The top 10 championship games of all time. If you go through 45 years, there's some gems. There's some gems, boy. And it's stories about, and it doesn't matter whether it was single A, double A, or triple A. There's 10 great games that you guys are going to hear about. The top 10 teams of all time. There's always that debate, right? You know, was it the Meadville teams of the 90s, or the Bethel parts of the 2000s, or some of these LaSalle teams? You got to buy the book. So then one of my favorite sections of the book is the top 12 coaches. And there's going to be some surprises there, folks. So you'll get to see some of the wonderful personalities of all time. What I did with that, Brian, I have a forward section in there. Not only mentions the top 12 coaches of all time, but the top 25. Guys that maybe didn't make the top 12, but really deserve recognition. And you know, a lot of good friendships over the years I've built with the coaches, and if you want to see that portion, you got to buy the book.
catching our drift here. No spoilers.
So, the last but not least, and I'm going to share something with you.
Okay.
Are the top 50 players in championship history.
Ooh.
Exclusive to
We
the
are getting
Pennsylvania.
spoilers.
Exclusive to the Pennsylvania Championships.
Okay.
And we talk about kids, and my kids going to the National Hockey League. And we had plenty of kids. When I started all this stuff, we didn't have any in the National Hockey League.
Mm-hmm.
But we were fortunate to have kids like R.J. Umberger, Ryan Malone lead the way, Jay Caulfield, who's from Philadelphia as well, Ray Stazak, who was a Philadelphia kid. And, so those kids were not, unfortunately, mentioned in this book because this is exclusive to the state championships.
Mm-hmm.
These are people that left their earmark on the game through the state finals.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool portion.
Mm-hmm.
The last page has two of our champions. They were not only champions of Franklin Cup and Flyers Cup and state championships, but they were Stanley Cup champions. And if you can figure out who the two players are that are in the last page of the book, I want you to email Brian or get a hold of them and let them know who they are. I'll share a little caveat with you. One is from Eastern Pennsylvania, and one is from Western Pennsylvania.
Ooh. So we got one apiece.
Yeah. So all you Philadelphia Flyers folks, Flyers Cup avocados, and Biscani, you're exempt from this. You're not allowed to participate. Povey's not allowed to participate. And who was the other one? Eric Ty, definitely not eligible for any prizes here because they know who I'm talking about. They've seen this. But anybody else, get a hold of Brian and let him know who the two players are in the last page of the book. And anyone who guesses it, the first person that guesses it right, gets a free signed copy from when this comes out. That's my promise.
And you can find at PhD Mitch on Twitter. Contact me. Don't contact our PhD Hockey Digest. PhD Mitch. And you got to mention the book contest.
Yeah, and thank you.
No problem.
It was great to have you in my home today.
I'm glad to see the archives.
Hopefully the dogs didn't lick you to death.
Oh, I love dogs. I'm a dog whisperer,
But let's do it again.
We will definitely do this again.
We're going to have the book's going to come out in September just for everybody's to celebrate the 50th season of high school hockey. And I will be scheduling, I just wanted to let you know and all the hockey fans out there, there will be different school nights next year where we will have signings. This will be both at Eastern and Western Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I'm going to go to Iceline. I'm going to go to Hatfield. May even go up to the skate zone and some of the rinks in the suburbs. Would love to get back to the Grundy. I haven't been there since the '99 championship. But we will have book signings coming out, and the winner, we're going to try to keep track of this. Ask me how we're going to do this. I'll never know. The school that sells the most books. So when you buy a book, you have to tell which school you're affiliated with. Is going to win a free hockey tournament to Pittsburgh, Notre Dame, or Jamestown.
One of the three major tournaments that they're involved with.
For PA hockey.
Yeah, PA hockey.
And
of course, PAHockey.net.
Yes.
Is the website you
can
go to. Check any of this information you need out.
If you want to get dizzy or busy, you go on that site.
You can find everything that you need there. I learned that in the last couple weeks. But yeah, well, Jeff.
Brian, thank you again. I mean, this was a wonderful visit, and
Jeff,
we should have broke out the Mr. Rogers sweaters today.
Well, you know what? Every once in a while, it's nice to get back, relax, and sit and just talk hockey. And this is what I wanted to bring from this. So, Jeff, thank you for having us into your home. Thank you for letting everybody listen to what, the state championships coming up, the state champions in the past, everything possible, everything you do for the game. Thank you. Thank you for all the kind words, and thank you for everything you're going to do for the game. So,
well, good luck to all the teams Saturday. We'll see you at LeBeau. I'm looking forward to seeing some of my good friends from Philadelphia. We've been locked down long enough with this crap, and I'll get to introduce you to some of my good friends from the Flyers Cup land.
I look forward.
They just a wonderful group of people, and again, hats off Jack Kukan and John Muka from the PHL. Great job this year. Their backbone, Kara Walker, she's been there every step of the way. Those are folks that are giving back to this game, and they had a trying season, let me tell you, with all the schedule changes and all the cancellations and the challenges they had. Nothing but kudos to get this state championship this year. Nothing but kudos.
And because we're all in this together, I don't ever consider anybody rivals. Once again, you can watch the games on Trib HSSN this weekend if you can't make it to the rink, and there are limitations to how many players can come to the rink, how many fans can be at the rink this year. So please watch there and cheer on your team loudly wherever it is, whether it's east, west, wherever. Once again, this is Jeff Mauro. I'm Brian Mitchell. I thank you for joining us for this wonderful, wonderful show today. I'll see you in the rink. Take care, guys.
Good luck, everybody.